2021. Another factor is that electricity tariffs have increased significantly since 2016, while the petrol price has doubled. In other business news now, the annual South African Renewable Energy Survey has revealed progress in the country's efforts to enhance grid expansion. The study has found that the total capacity of projects submitted more than doubled to 133 gigawatts. Meanwhile, 120% growth has been noted in the submission of solar PV capacity alone. Industry role players, including the SA Photovoltaic Industry Association, have lauded the report for reflecting commitment towards a target and proactive transmission infrastructure development. Eskom can now use this to action grid capacity connection assessment and transmission development plan updates. The association's Devet Talyat speaks to us now. Thank you so much for your time, Devet. Let's first talk through the grid strengthening and expansion planning element of this survey. How vital is that?
Good afternoon to Misang, and good afternoon to the viewers at home. I think what's really important is to emphasize that the information submitted in the South African Renewable Energy Grid Survey is a key input to the transmission development planning process of Eskom previously and now the National Transmission Company of South Africa. And this is an annual survey that is an initiative of the SAPVIA Grid Access Working Group. And together with our wind energy counterparts at the South African Wind Energy Association, we work really closely with the National Transmission Company strategic transmission development teams to get all of this information together to enable them to accurately forecast and plan where transmission infrastructure is needed in the country and to roll that out at a pace that hopefully meets the industry demands.
How then, at a practical level, does this assist Eskom in its efforts?
So I think a practical way to look at it is if the independent power producers or the project developers can be thought of as towns in the country, the transmission development plan would be the roadmap, or where Eskom in this case would be building roads to get people from where they live to where they need to be, where they need to work. In the same way, if you think of a large-scale solar PV plant out in the Northern Cape, you want to build the project there because that's where the best solar resource is. But where you need that energy, where you use that energy, is in the load centers in Gauteng and in the Western Cape. So what this information that's captured in the survey really tells the NTCSA team is where the roads need to be, but also how big the roads need to be. So in this case, roads would be transmission lines and collector areas. So fundamentally, that information gives Eskom the information that they need to accurately plan where the transmission infrastructure needs to go in the future.
And this planning is not going to happen without the private sector. Do talk to us about the magnitude of the role in private generation as well as the investment that is to be touted in this regard.
Yeah, so I think this South African Renewable Energy Grid Survey is a brilliant example of private sector and public sector working together to solve a common problem. You can't plan properly without proper information and without really high quality detailed information. So that is what industries come together to supply the Eskom and the National Transmission Company teams with. And that information is used to inform the transmission development plan, which is a 10-year infrastructure development plan, and it's got a 10-year horizon, and that shifts on every 10 years. And fundamentally, what this information allows the Eskom team to do is to use real evidence-based decision-making to plan where transmission infrastructure needs to be placed in the country and at what pace. If you just look at the amount of projects submitted, that's nearly doubled from the 2023 version. And as you mentioned, the capacity is standing at 133 gigawatts of projects in the private sector pipeline over the next 8 years. That represents just over 2 trillion rands worth of private sector investment in generation. Now, unfortunately, you won't be able to connect all of those projects and you won't be able to connect all of, or at least a large portion of those projects if you don't build out the transmission infrastructure in the right areas where developers and IPPs need it, and also at the pace that's needed. So this information is a crucial building block of the transmission development plan, and to inform the timelines at which this infrastructure development needs to take place.
On that note, and as a parting shot, as you've rightfully indicated that at a geographical scale, I mean, the likes of the Northern Cape experiencing an increase in submissions as well as Gauteng. But in terms of how much ground South Africa has made towards getting closer to achieving what would be called an energy mix that would benefit all in this country, how far have we come?
So I think we've come a really long way. I always try and explain the energy mix as a rugby team. And if you look at the Springboks as an example, you need big guys up front that can do the hard work. You need wings on the side to move fast and score tries. And in the same way, you need different sources of energy to work together. You need the traditional sources that's well understood, but you need the new renewable clean sources and some flexibility as well. To make sure that the whole power system remains in balance, and that we move in a sustainable way to a cleaner, more renewable power system in the future. And this information that's submitted in the Renewable Energy Grid Survey goes a long way to enable that we've got the right regulatory framework in place, and it enables, fact-based decision making to enable policy decisions, but also the much needed transmission infrastructure rollout.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Devet Talliard is with Savia talking to us about that survey relating to renewable energy and the progress that South Africa has